Hey guys, welcome to Boxing Squared for boxing news and views from around the internet. Joe the Juggernaut Joyce is set to return to the ring 16th of March on a Frank Warren card called the Magnificent Seven. His opponent in this comeback fight after two consecutive losses in 2023 to Zhang Zhilei, it will be Kash Ali. So a domestic tune-up fight for Joyce, who I'm expecting in 2024 will be back in the mix somehow, but I think for him, and we'll come to this, styles will make fights in terms of his potential to win at that sort of upper echelon. So you've got a case here with Kash Ali. I think this is, for Ali, it's either two things. He believes Joyce is shot and he can beat him, or more likely that coming off a loss to Bodan Myronet, who also recently beat Nathan Gorman, Kash Ali is looking around and him and his management are saying, okay, time to cash out, take a big payday. Because Kash Ali has been fighting levels below Joe Joyce, and I don't believe he has the tools to beat Joyce, even though Joyce is coming off a knockout loss. Joyce still a good heavyweight, and I think some people forget that. Even though the whole blocking punches with his face strategy was always going to come a cropper against someone at the upper echelons of the heavyweight division, he's still a good heavyweight, he's got some good wins, and I think the calls of retirement from some, especially after the second loss to Zhang, were premature. I think that case with Zhang was really styles make fights, and Zhang had his number, and especially a big power punch against a guy who didn't really have great defense. It wasn't always a recipe that was going to end in Joyce's favor. So I think Joyce can be in the mix at that upper end of the heavyweight division, but it'll be matchmaking where it's key. And we've already actually seen that. If he's matched against guys, and it doesn't matter if they're movers in that, but if they don't have elite power, he is going to be in fights and be able to rely on that chin and rely on the offense to, you know, wear guys down, a la Joseph Parker. And I think Parker, if he had that one back again, he wouldn't have come in so heavy and tried to bomb Joyce out, because obviously Parker doesn't have the same sort of punching power, fight-changing power as a Zhang Zhilei. So we'll come to Joyce and the what next after this fight, or the potential what next is what I could potentially see happening. But I think with this one with Kash Ali, so this fight is going to be on that Magnificent Seven card, which looks like a pretty decent card. It's going to be in Birmingham, and also you've got Solomon Dakers returning on that card as well. I think Joyce will probably feel things out for a round or two. I don't think he's going to go crazy, and then I think he'll start to sort of turn it up. And I do expect him within about 6 or 7 rounds to basically wear down and take out Kash Ali. Ali, for the most part in recent years, has really not been up to much. He's been somewhat inactive. He had been fighting against relatively low-level European opposition on some of the Dennis Hobson car park shows and other different shows. You know, Thomas Salek, Roman Gorst, and more recently, obviously, that loss in July 2023 to Bodan Myronet, who obviously had a pretty good year for himself, beating Gorman at the end of the year. So I think Kash Ali, at this stage of his career, is basically there for the taking. Joyce and the matchmakers, they will know that he should go in there and have relatively few problems with Kash Ali. I think Ali, sort of similar in that David Price fight before Ali had that brain explosion and started to basically, you know, bite his way on David Price. I think there will be some resistance. He'll have a little bit of success. Obviously, Joyce is somewhat easy to hit, but I think we'll see Joyce trying to be maybe a little bit more defensively responsible as he tries to feel things out. He'll just try to go through the motions, get some rounds in, get some confidence back, and ultimately I do expect that he is going to stop Kash Ali within 6 or 7 rounds, possibly even earlier, but we'll see. Joyce certainly at 38 years old, we've got a couple of questions about where's he at after that second loss to Zhang Zhilei in terms of the chin. Is it cracked? But I don't think Kash Ali is the guy to really answer those questions. In terms of a comeback tune-up, yeah, it's okay, but I do expect him to win. And the potential what next? Well, I think you just have to look across the seas to Saudi Arabia, and Joe Joyce eventually, I think, will find himself on different cards out there in 2024. I mean, just think about it. In 2022, Joyce, after stopping Joseph Parker in 11 rounds, was riding high. He was the interim WBO champion, and it looked like the world was his oyster. And this is the thing with heavyweight boxing. Things can turn on a dime and relatively quickly. You're only as good as your last performance, is the old saying. And Joyce, a bit of a horror year. He gave Zhang a chance, and obviously Zhang took it with both hands. And Joyce ended 2023, with a small rebuild on his hands. But because of his connection being in the Frank Warren stable, Warren deeply embedded with what's happening with Riyadh season and what's happening out in Saudi Arabia, I expect Joyce will be well back into the mix, into probably after an Ali win. Maybe you could see something sort of similar to Daniel Dubois, who had that fight with Jarrell Miller. What about Joe Joyce versus Jarrell Miller? That's kind of an interesting fight, and given Miller comparative to Zhang as a non-puncher, it's going to be a fun, entertaining fight. And potentially because Joyce doesn't have the same power as Daniel Dubois, it probably would just be a slugfest. So there are matchups to be made at the upper end of the heavyweight division where Joyce can be in fun fights, get well paid, and get some wins as well. But when he does come up against those guys who can really bang, I think there is going to be trouble for him, because he can't take too many, because his chin, he can be hurt, he can be wobbled, he can be dropped, he can be knocked out. So Joe Joyce, at a certain level, he could come up short, but with certain matchmaking, and especially with the opportunities for Saudi Arabia, he can be in some fun fights. Doesn't have to be every fight going for a title, but I think Joe Joyce, he will have something burning within him, something to prove that he's not done, that he's still got a little bit left in the tank. And if Zhang Zhilei is performing at a high level into his early 40s, Joyce at 38, surely he, if he's matched well and has some good cards in Saudi Arabia in the next couple of years, or similar big type cards, he can be in some fun matchups too and prove that he's got something left to offer the heavyweight division. And I think he does. What do you make of this tune-up and the potential what next for Joe Joyce? Drop a comment loud and often. Hit like, hit subscribe, follow me on Twitter. Boxing_squared. I'm out.